Is Superman going to kill the DCU? Hello there, and welcome to today's video, where I'd like to discuss the problems currently swirling around James Gunn's Superman movie, as well as why I think it has a good chance at complete failure, and why that failure could spell the end of the DCU before it's even begun. For those of you unaware, James Gunn's Superman movie is an upcoming superhero flick intending to reboot the cinematic exploits of the DC heroes, and releases on the 11th of July 2025. And it's been plagued by a series of issues, including lawsuits, fan backlash, and production woes. But what I'm more interested in talking about is the general kind of apathy towards the film coming from a lot of the fan base, myself included. So today, I wanted to talk about why James Gunn's Superman movie isn't a movie that I'm really all that excited to see, and maybe why the rest of the fan base isn't either. One of the biggest issues facing this upcoming Superman project is just how beholden it is to the past. When the very first trailer dropped and we heard the synthesized notes of John Williams' score from Richard Donner's Superman movie, my heart sank. Once again, we seem to be going back to the Christopher Reeve well. And don't get me wrong, I see why. He perfectly captured Clark Kent's dorkiness and Superman's vulnerable heroics in a way that few have ever managed to repeat. Christopher Reeve was an incredible Superman, and his legacy as the greatest on-screen Man of Steel is well-deserved. But it feels like he's become sort of a shadow hanging over the on-screen legacy of the character for decades now. And, this fact isn't really helped by Zack Snyder's attempt at a bold, new reimagining of the character that left the DC audience in tatters. Snyder tried to do something new with the Man of Steel, and it failed completely with audiences. Unfortunately, there is a subset of DC fans who come off as something cult-like in their reverence for the man's abysmal vision of what the DC universe should have looked like. And that's a problem. Especially because that subset isn't planning on watching this movie, even if it is a perfect Superman movie, simply because it's not coming from Zack Snyder. There's also a group of fans who have been left gobsmacked by the treatment of the previous Superman actor, Henry Cavill, who was fired from the role, rehired, and then fired again in such a short frame of time. It's so disheartening, especially because if he'd been given the right script, he could have finally been the actor who dethroned Reeve as the definitive Superman. Facing this tide of Snyderism, the general apathy towards superhero movies and Henry Cavill's unceremonious exit from the role, and then the using of an updated John Williams theme for your very first trailer, is not an easy hill to climb right out of the gate. It's going to take a strong vision from an incredibly focused director to not only unify a fractured audience, but also convince that audience that you're not just relying on what's come before. Which leads us to the man in charge, James Gunn. James Gunn was responsible for 2 projects in Snyder's DCU before taking the helm of the entire DC studio. Those projects were The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. Both projects received critical acclaim, but the issue is with Gunn's decision to reboot Snyder's universe, well, except for the projects he's worked on, of course. More than anything else, the DCU needed a clean break from Snyder's work, and now James Gunn has refused to give it that break. I mean, if John Cena can come back, then why can't Henry Cavill or Gal Gadot? It's messy and pointless, and speaks to Gunn's inability to cut off his own work from an infected body. But, should James Gunn have even been in the director's chair for this first movie of the DCU in the first place? I'll be honest here. I don't think James Gunn was the right man to take the reins of Superman. He's an incredible filmmaker, yes, but I don't think his passion lies in showing off characters of unmovable symbolism like Superman. I think he loves to portray broken outsiders who have to put themselves back together in order to find a home, because that's what he identifies with himself. He's shown this over and over again with movies like The Suicide Squad, where he's spoken about identifying with a misfit like Polka Dot Man, and even in his fabled Marvel trilogy, Guardians of the Galaxy, where the character he's identified with the most has been Rocket Raccoon. And That's perfectly fine, and he's even brought us some incredible films over the years. But Superman's not an outsider. Not really. Not in the same way Polka Dot Man and Rocket are. At his core, Superman is a backcountry boy filled with an endless optimism. An everyman who loves the people around him and identifies with them all despite not being one of them. The Guardians, the Suicide Squad, and the Creature Commandos, they all fit so well within James Gunn's wheelhouse, but Superman doesn't. And this problem becomes even more concerning when characters like Guy Gardner and Metamorpho are now thrown into the film as well, because I think these are characters Gunn is more easily able to identify with. One of my biggest worries about this film is that these characters are going to take over the spotlight in what should be a Superman movie. And hell, on that note, one would have thought that lessons had been learned from Snyder's run at these characters, that overstuffing a film to get to the interesting part was bound to fail. And this movie sounds overstuffed as hell, just from the cast list. I mean, we've already got 3 villains confirmed in Lex Luthor, the Engineer, and Ultraman, with Brainiac rumored to be involved as well. On the hero side, we've got Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, Krypto the Superdog, Supergirl. That's a lot to juggle for any director in what is supposed to be Superman's story. And that's without all the trouble Gunn's had to deal with behind the scenes. Before we talk about anything else, let's just address one of my biggest concerns in this whole enterprise. This movie's budget. It's been reported that the budget for James Gunn's Superman movie has come to be around $225 million, with an additional marketing budget estimated to be around $100 to $150 million. This is incredibly concerning, as it means that the movie has to make around $700 million at the box office to be considered a success. That is a staggering amount of money, especially when you consider the state of Warner Brothers at the moment. Warner Brothers is in financial disarray and needs Superman to be a top earner, not only to keep moving forward with James Gunn's vision for the DCU, but just in general, as the company has faced mismanagement, rebranding, restructuring, and rebranding again. The only thing they're interested in is surefire hits, which is why they've decided to only focus on 3 IPs: DC, Mortal Kombat, and Harry Potter. Given the uphill battle this film faces, $700 million at the box office is a ridiculous amount of money to pin all of your hopes on. Then there's still the test screening reviews, which have been dribbling out for ages, calling the film an unfocused mess, leading to reshoots, rewrites, and attempts to fix the tone, which at one point was described as too light-hearted, which is concerning because a Superman movie should be somewhat light-hearted. There's also been rumors of an editor being let go, a new composer added to the mix, and roughly 30 minutes removed from the film in an attempt to refine it. Now, none of these things are necessarily bad on their own, but all of this speaks to a movie that doesn't seem to know what it wants to be, as being led by a man trying to please not only a committee, but as many people as possible. And while that may sound like the right idea, historically speaking, it's never ended well. The marketing for this film has also been a bit all over the place, with trailers being heavily criticized, actors being heavily criticized, and bad word of mouth spreading like the plague despite the movie not coming out yet. There's also the rumor floating around that Superman is going to get cancelled in the film, in a similar manner to James Gunn's own real-world circumstances, acting as a sort of mirror to Gunn's own journey of the last few years. And that alone worries me quite a bit. In the end, I don't envy the position James Gunn is in, but from the outside, a lot of the decisions he's making feel like the wrong ones. More than anything, I want this movie to be great. I want it to be a new cinematic chapter for icons of the comic industry that feel like they can't succeed if their name isn't Batman. So, I'm gonna go watch this movie, and I hope more than anything that after I have, I'm able to come back and laugh at this video. Laugh at how unfounded my fears were and just how wrong I was about James Gunn and his love for Superman. But I've got a sneaky suspicion that that won't be the case. Yeah, look, I really hope that this film does really well. I hope it is a good film. I hope James Gunn has completely surprised me. And honestly, if he has, I have no issues with, you know, dropping another video saying, wow, I was wrong. Here's everything the movie did great. Here's why my video is stupid and you shouldn't watch it. Um, but I don't know, considering where Marvel's at the moment, how they can't help but fuck everything up, how, just modern screenwriting at the moment just isn't where it needs to be. This movie has me worried. Um, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a phenomenal entry and well worth the price of admission, the title of Superman, etc., etc. Anyway, thank you for watching.